is another episode of The Fuzzy Mike.
This is The Fuzzy Mike, the interview series without format, without boundaries, without focus. Fuzzy, pretty much based on this goofy-looking microphone here.
Tip of a horse's tail.
This is The Fuzzy Mike.
My interests are, they're vastly enormous.
Damon Bradshaw. Damon Bradshaw is the driver of the Monster Energy monster truck.
I love NASA. I love death metal.
Lindsay Wink, you are a fan favorite.
I don't get to talk about that on the radio, and so this is like my little outlet.
When I get to talk to artists that I really look up to and I admire, and I don't think you've ever written a bad song, this just makes it totally worthwhile for me.
What's your email?
The Fuzzy Mike, there we go.
Guest on the Fuzzy Mike is a musician who's been heard by millions of fans around the world, and a musician who you can see along with his band the Hitman coming up on Sunday, March 15th at Dosey Doe in the Woodlands. Here's a little snippet of what you're going to get.
You got me on my knees,
Joining us on the program right now, three-time Emmy Award nominee, Russ Velazquez. Russ, welcome to the program.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Three-time Emmy Award nominee and one of the recent inductees into the Nashville Musicians Hall of Fame for the first ever Road Warrior Award. That is massive, buddy. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we're very proud of that, and it's a great honor, and we really just was excited about getting it and going out to Nashville. It was great, and we are road warriors, boy. We've been on the road and having fun. So, and we're coming to Texas next week, so we're looking forward to it. We've been there many times, and we love going out there.
Yes, the Hitman is a rock and roll supergroup comprised of 5 musicians who have been heard the world over. Describe the Hitman to us, please.
Well, the Hitman basically started about 10 years ago as the idea was because of the success of Jersey Boys on Broadway. The band said, "Hey, why don't we get back together? The Four Seasons are, kind of all over the place now. It's a big hit on Broadway, and so 3 of the members of the Four Seasons decided to get together, and then they wanted to kind of round it out." And so they got Jimmy Ryan, who had worked with Carole King. I worked with Carole King. Worked with Carly Simon and Jim Croce and so many people he's worked with. And then I joined, and I had worked with Carole King and Sting and the Ramones and blah blah blah. So it became, okay, we're the Hitmen. We're the guys who worked with all these amazing artists. And so now it's a history of the people that we work with, and we play the songs that we were either involved with or, big hits of the artists that we worked with or toured with. So it's a fun show because not only do you hear just every song is just an absolute hit song that we play, but we also give you some background and behind the scenes kind of stories. Plus we have a little multimedia thing going on. We have visual stuff, great pictures and little videos, and so it's a multimedia music history show.
We'll be able to see it at Dosey Doe in the Woodlands on Sunday, March 15th. One of your fans who has seen the show 5 times wrote on your website, it's the greatest show on earth.
That's amazing. I feel fantastic. That is amazing. It's a fun show, and we're very excited to go back to the Dosey Doe, man. We went there and had a blast there. What a great place. And I think the history of it was some kind of coffee factory or something that they moved and brought it to the Woodlands or something. Am I far off with that? There's some kind of history about that venue.
Yeah, no, it used to be. It still is a coffee bar, but they also have the barn, and the barn is where the artists play.
Right, that's where we played, and it was a great place. We absolutely loved it, and so I'm very excited to go back there.
Okay, so the Hitman is called a legendary Sideman group. Can you explain what a Sideman is?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, when you, as a musician, I mean, I did a lot of studio work, but when you would play in a band with, let's say, a Sting or, Luther Vandross and a Carole King, the Sidemen are the guys who played in the band for these artists. And that's what it is. So we're the Sidemen. We're the guys who play behind these great artists.
There's I believe there's a documentary film called Sidemen, and there's also a documentary film called 20 Feet From Stardom. And
yes. Those are some of my friends. Lisa Fisher, Janice Pendarvis. I've done many sessions with those people, and we kind of think of it, in terms of the Hitman, we think of it kind of like, yeah, that's kind of us too, because we were either behind these great artists or in the studio with them, but they were the featured artists, and we were even closer than 20 feet. Sometimes I would be right next to like Luther or Sting or Michael Bolton or, Patty Austin. We all sang together in the studio, and so we were much closer. But that's, yeah, and there's also the Wrecking Crew, is about the early, 60s hits that were, Glenn Campbell was part of the Wrecking Crew, and, just all these great musicians. And also the what were they called? Now it's driving me crazy now because the Motown records, the Funk Brothers, I think that's what they were called.
Okay.
And these were all these great musicians who played all the backing music to the Four Tops, the Temptations, Marvin Gaye, the list goes on and on. And so they actually put out a little documentary, I think it was called Standing in the Shadows of Motown, which, kind of features them and gives them a little bit of their due, just like 20 People from Stardom and the Wrecking Crew. So if anybody wants to find out about all the great musicians who played on these records, for all these great, amazing artists, they should check out those documentaries. They're great. So we kind of feel we're kind of part of that.
You are a big part of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Talking to Russ Velazquez, one of the legendary hitmen. The website is actually thehitmenlive.com. What does it take to be, outside of musical talent, okay, what is the difference between the star and the 20 Feet From Stardom player?
Well, I think most of the difference is the focus is, on them. They are under a lot more scrutiny and a lot more criticism, and so they tend to either get amazing press and amazing, or on the other side, maybe a lot of criticism, some of it may be undue. But, the focus is on them. A lot of times when we would work with these people, people would say, hey, how you doing? But not much attention was really paid to it. So really all the attention's on those artists, and we kind of just do our job and hopefully make them sound good and great, and people are entertained. So.
But in many cases, Russ, let's call a spade, you are infinitely more talented than the person who's getting the focus.
Well, no, not necessarily. Of course, not like, in my opinion, I mean, not like somebody like a Sting or a Carole King. I mean, these people are just amazing artists. But I understand your point. There are times, during my career, and I could probably speak for some musicians, there have been times where we've worked with, some artists that were like, okay, these people are very lucky, to be here and have all this focus. And yes, so to a certain extent, I do agree with that, but some of these amazing artists that we work with are just, my God, I just, I wish I had some of the talent, and there is some luck involved too, but I wish I had some of the talent and be able to write some of the songs that Carole King has written, some of the stuff that Sting has written, the stuff that Chicago has written, that team of writers that have written so many hits for them. So it's true to some extent and not true to some extent.
Well, we're going to get into stories of some of the artists that you have worked with, but how much of a difference is there in ego between you and, say, a Sting?
Well, I would say that, I mean, first off, he's, just an amazing artist. And he's a nice guy. And in terms of ego, I mean, I think you have to have an ego to be, an artist like that, because I think you need to believe in yourself, and you need to believe that you can, do and write and create, great music. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think all musicians have to have an ego and think that they are good and can and are able to do what they want to do and think they're as good or better than the next person. I think you need that to be and to sustain and to have some kind of career in this business. So I think, the difference, I think maybe the difference is he's a lot more famous than I am.
The quintessential Hitman song for storytelling, what are we going to hear? If you were to say, this is the best story we have.
Oh, wow, that's a hard one because there's a lot of good ones. Well, Jimmy Ryan, our guitar player, he's worked with Carly Simon, and he has a great story. Actually, he's had several stories about Carly Simon, and a lot of people are going to be, and I don't want to give it away because whoever's coming to the show, but he will kind of give you a background as to what You're So Vain, which is one of her biggest hits, if not her biggest hit, that he played guitar on, and he worked with her for like 21 years. He's got a great story about what that song is about, because there's been so much speculation about, who is this song about? Is it about this person, about this person? And he kind of gives you a little bit of a background, a little backstory. And there's even another story about somebody else who is on the record that many people may not know. So that's a great story. I mean, we have stories about the Lee Shapiro has some great stories about being in Four Seasons with Frankie Valli. We even have a little video of Frankie congratulating us on our award, which is so great of him to do that. And he's very supportive and loves the Hitmen. So there's a lot. It's hard to pick one of the good stories, but that one in particular is the one I know is a good one for the crowd, because a lot of them don't know, or some of these people who have thought, I think it's about that song, You're So Vain, is about this person. Well, he'll set him straight. So that's a good one.
Talking to Russ Velazquez. You can see Russ along with the Hitmen coming to Dosey Doe on March 15th. That's a Sunday evening. Tickets available now. You can go check out more at thehitmenlive.com. Let's talk about your versatility for a moment, if we can. I'm looking at this list of artists that you've performed with. How does one go from singing alongside Michael Bolton to performing with KORN?
Well, it's just, the versatility factor. I think I've the fact that I've been able to, for many years I did, session work, and what what gave me, I guess, the fact that I stayed in the business so long was I was very versatile. I was able to, maybe sing with rock stuff or pop stuff. I mean, a lot of times, like, for instance, I did many commercials where they say, we need kind of like a George Michael kind of guy. We need kind of like a Michael Jackson kind of voice. We need something like a Prince. But then it would be, but we need somebody who can sing with a group like KORN. So there was a group of us, a group of guys. They needed a manly chorus to sing with them. So, I was luckily picked. At the same time, I would go in and step up to a microphone and I'd sing with Luther Vandross, and it'd be an R&B, very smooth kind of thing. So I think being versatile was a key to my success in doing session work and working with these people.
What did you do with the Ramones?
That was a great day, and then Joey and I became friends. But what I did was I did a bunch of songs, some backgrounds with the Ramones. They're unbelievable. They recorded, I think, like 12 tracks in about an hour and a half. So, when you hear Ramones, you hear 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what it was about. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. They hit a song 2 minutes long, 2.5 minutes long. Hit the next one, hit the next one, hit the next one. And I sang a bunch of backgrounds with Joey. So it was just a fun day in the studio. But the funny thing about it was, they want to work so fast. Joey, may he rest in peace, is very tall. Very tall. He's like 6'5" or something. And I'm not very tall. I'm about 5'7", 5'8", maybe if I stretch up a little. And so we set up to do vocals. So they set up, the mic was already set up for Joey because he did some lead vocals. The mic is about 2 feet above me. So instead of setting up another mic for me, they put a cinder block. And I stood on a cinder block next to Joey, and I sang my backgrounds with Joey on a cinder block, and not only trying to sing, but also trying to maintain my balance. Now, this was, I believe, in 1980. You know, we didn't have cell phones then. I wish there was a video of the because it was quite funny seeing me trying to sing with Joey on a cinder block and trying to, you know, maintain my balance. I don't know if you ever stood on a cinder block
No.
for any length of time and sing. You could see that, you know, even if you move a little bit, you're like, whoa, you know, trying to maintain your balance. So it was quite a funny thing, and Joey got a kick out of it, and it was just a fun day. They were great. They were great.
I expect that you're going to try and divert this answer because it actually would well, the question is, who's the most talented musician you've ever worked with? But this is not to say that you're slighting anybody else, but just the person who had your jaw on the ground at their talent.
I would probably. Yeah, I understand. I mean, you know, probably Sting, you know, just because I'm such a huge Police fan and such a huge fan of his work. But again, like you said, you know, not to slight anybody. I mean, I'm in such awe of Carole King. You know, just in awe. You know, working with her and just her sitting down and just going through these songs. I'm like, oh my God, she wrote that song. She wrote this song. She wrote that. These are the soundtrack of so many people's lives. So, you know, I am total awe of her, you know, so that's a tough one. Sting, because, you know, I was just so much into the Police, and I had a band called the Metro Men, and we were around that time, you know, playing it around that time, and we were kind of like, well, if you took the Police and if you took Joe Jackson and Elvis Costello and Squeeze and kind of mushed them together, we kind of were like that. That's who we wanted to be anyway. They're kind of like a big mixture of all those bands. So I was just such a fan of them, you know, and they had just great energy and the music. But so that's a tough one. But I would say those are two. If I had to pick one, I'd pick both of them.
Well, Russ, you just mentioned probably the most accurate description of the Hitman, and that is the soundtrack of our lives. You just said it. Yeah. What was the piece of music that you heard for the first time and you said, this is what I want to do?
Well, it was oh boy, you know, that's a good question because, you know, my father was a salsa singer, and he played with all the great salsa greats. I was a huge Beatles fan, but also I was a huge James Brown fan, a huge Motown fan. But I would have to say the Beatles. The first time I saw them on Ed Sullivan, and I think, you know, so many people probably have the same feeling. It's like, that's what I want to do. You know, so seeing them on Ed Sullivan absolutely blew my mind. And that, I think, yeah, thinking about it without a doubt, seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, it's like, I want to do that. So.
This is one of my favorite questions, but I always hesitate to ask it because you might say something that I'm not familiar with. But pretty much 90% of musicians that I ask this question to all say the same answer. So what is the one song that has been written and recorded that you wish you would have done?
Oh, boy. Yeah, oh, boy. Oh, wow. There's so many great ones. And I think I've My Girl. I think
really?
I wish I would have. Yeah, I wish I would have written My Girl because that to me is like perfection. You know, in terms of an unforgettable melody against a simple. It's simple. It's simplicity, and it's also complex in the sense of there's so many different ways of you can see. But I would say My Girl. Was there one song that a lot of other people said?
Yeah, and the reason why I brought that question up is because you were talking about the Beatles, and 90% of artists tell me Imagine.
Yeah, well, that's up there.
Yeah.
But but just some reason, My Girl, Smokey Robinson to me is one of the greatest songwriters. And that song still kills me. I mean, Imagine does too, but it puts me in another place where My Girl, how could you not feel so great when you hear that song? And it's just such a, I mean, I can't imagine anybody not liking that song. But Imagine's right up there. I mean, geez, being a huge Beatles fan, but some of the earlier things are also amazing. I mean, I wouldn't have minded writing Eleanor Rigby, or I wouldn't have minded writing A Day in the Life. I wouldn't mind that. So.
One of your bandmates in the Hitman actually worked with McCartney, didn't he?
Yes, Jimmy Ryan worked with McCartney, and when he was working with Carly Simon, and he also has a little story about that too, because when McCartney sang with them and then also played them, no one had heard. He goes, "Hey, I'm working on this thing. It's for a James Bond movie," and so they got to hear "Live and Let Die," him play it before it was even released. So wow. that was a great yeah. Yeah, wow is right. I wish that was me.
Russ Velazquez is our guest. You can see Russ and the Hitmen as they play Dosey Doe on Sunday, March 15th, Dosey Doe in the Woodlands. You mentioned that you saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. You have appeared on a ton of late-night TV shows, including one of my favorites, the David Letterman program. How cold was that studio? Because he's legendary for having a cold studio.
Freezing. I mean,
did it affect your playing ability?
No, because I was singing. I wasn't playing.
Okay. Well, there you go.
It didn't affect it, but it didn't affect my singing because we weren't on stage that long. So, I mean, but it is true. But what an exciting thing too, because to step on the stage at the Beatles, because the sound guys, the engineer said, "Hey, step right over here," and walked over, and there's a little star. There, and I guess that's where David would do his because he sees right here, this is where the Beatles were.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just got such a chill, and I got to go back there again for Stephen Colbert's show because I've been, well, not on stage there, but behind the scenes there, and I got to walk on there again, on Stephen Colbert's set there. So it was very exciting. It's just, you get such a chill and such a, it's just standing there, I was like, wow, this is where it happened, so.
Russ, you've worked with so many artists that are recognizable to us, and you've worked on a lot of different television programs, including Sesame Street, which you've been Emmy nominated for, I believe, 3 times.
Yes.
What is that one pinch me moment? Oh, my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Well, there's several, but one, you mentioned Sesame Street, and the one thing that just absolutely was an amazing thing was working on one of my songs on Sesame Street with LL Cool J, because I wrote a song called Edition Expedition. It was nominated for an Emmy. Yay! I didn't win. I lost to Disney. but it was just, the whole process was just an amazing thing because I was asked to write the song for LL and Elmo, and I wrote the song, and everybody was so excited about it. And then I went into the studio with LL and record his vocals on it, and it was just, he couldn't have been nicer. He was so great, and we had such a great time recording it. Then we went on set. And I was on set while they filmed him performing it with Elmo. And it was just, I'm like, that was one of those I can't believe this. First of all, I'm on the set of Sesame Street, which I've been on many, many times because I've written many things for them. But to be on with a star of his caliber and having such a great time with him in the studio, and then being on the set and watching him perform and see my song come to life with all the Muppets, LL Cool J, it was just, I couldn't believe, it was definitely one of those pinch me moments.
And one of the things I love about hearing that story is the exuberance in your voice. It's still there. It's still exciting to you.
Oh, yeah. It talk about, everybody says Sesame Street's a magical place. It is a magical place. To see these amazing puppeteers do what they do and do it so seamlessly and effortlessly that it is remarkable. I wish everybody could see Sesame Street being filmed, as they do it. It is quite remarkable.
Well, pretty much the closest we're going to get is listening to you tell us about it. So we appreciate that.
Just to see it. To see, like I said, seeing my songs come to life. Because it's one thing to write the song and we record it, and that's all great, it's all fun. But then you see all these people, the cast, the crew, everybody just working and seeing your songs come to life is amazing. It's amazing. It really is.
You've also worked with some major corporations in America, including Burger King, Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Disney, McDonald's. Do you come up with jingles for them? Do you help with their commercials?
Well, it goes it's all the above. I mean, for the most part, most of my career doing jingles was to be hired as a singer, and basically all the work was done. The campaign slogan, the storyboard. There's all this stuff goes into play, and they used to call us the icing on the cake. So I would say 70% of the jingle work I did was being hired as a singer. We'd go into the best studios in New York City with the best singers, best musicians, everybody was top notch. They didn't want to mess around. You know, when you worked on a jingle, you knew that everyone that worked on that jingle was, you know, the cream of the crop. So it was, I was very spoiled. But there were some instances where I wrote jingles. But again, I would have a storyboard. I would have maybe a slogan. But the Burger King, which was one of my, actually the best ones, was I came up, you know, actually I didn't come up with a line, but they just said, hey, just say this line, you know, and it was I love this place. So it just sound excited and say it, and because we got all this other singing to do. So I just went up to the mic and I just said, I love this place, you know. And we did all this music and all this singing. We did a bunch of different demos. And I got a phone call like a month later, and they said, hey, you know, yeah, we're gonna be doing this Burger King commercial, but there's a line that they like that you said. And I totally forgot about it. And I was like, oh, okay. Because it was like a month or two before. And, you know, I would do literally like 20, 25 sessions a week. So that was just one of many things I did. And I'm like, okay, I said a lot. Okay. And then surely enough, on TV, all of a sudden I hear, I love this place. I'm like, wait, that's me. And it was on every Burger King commercial for the next year and a half, which I was very happy about.
I bet you were. I bet you were. You know, you were just, Russ, you were just saying that, you know, hey, I recognize that. That's me. When was the moment that you realized, you know what, I've made it in this career?
Well, when once I was in the business for a couple of years, like I said, that was my job. I would go from studio to studio to studio. And there was one Saturday morning I woke up and put on the TV. You know, I have only 6 kids, by the way. So
only?
Yeah, only. So this is when my first child was born. She was a little baby, you know, and watching Saturday morning TV, having some cereal, and there were 4 commercials in a row that I sang on. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So that was like, okay, I think I made it. You know, I think I did it. So that was when it really hit me.
Well, you're going to be hitting us on Sunday, March 15th, along with the remainder of the Hitmen. Russ, we can't wait to see you guys take to the stage at Dosey Doe. And you know what? Thank you so much for joining me on the Fuzzy Mic, but also thanks for all the entertainment that you and your mates have provided us over the years. It really has been the soundtrack of our lives.
Oh, well, thank you. And please, it is our pleasure, and we absolutely are having such a blast doing this. And we love, and, you know, and people, every show we do, everybody comes up to us and they thank us for, like, bringing back so many memories. They say, you know, you give us memories, you know, and the soundtrack of our lives. And this brought back so many. You made us feel young again. It's just so, and it just makes us feel so great. And so thank you, and thank everybody that comes to the show. It's a fun show. So, you know, I'm sure whoever comes to see it is going to really have a great time. I pretty much guarantee you will. It's
going to be a blast. We're looking forward to it. Safe travels, my friend.
Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Take care of yourself, buddy.
You too. Bye-bye.
Texas. Bye-bye.
And there it is, Russ Velazquez joining us on the Fuzzy Mic. My thanks to Russ Velazquez for calling in. Also, thanks to Joe Yamato, owner of Agency 33 Public Relations, who set up that interview with Russ. The Fuzzy Mic executive producer is Trish Klein. Production elements provided by theradiofarm.com. I'm your host, Kevin Klein. We'll see you next time on the Fuzzy Mic.
Fuzzy Mic. Thanks for listening to the Fuzzy Mic. Check back often and stay fuzzy. Wait a second. Did we read that right? Stay fuzzy?